This is Scott Freck, Executive Director of the Eugene Symphony. In an interview recorded at public radio station KLCC in downtown Eugene, I had a chance to talk with saxophonist Branford Marsalis, who is the soloist for our concert on Thursday, January 22nd. Musically speaking, Branford has done it all. In a career that has spanned nearly 4 decades, he has performed everywhere from jazz clubs to concert halls to sports arenas, and collaborated with artists as diverse as Sting, Bruce Hornsby, and the Grateful Dead. He, his father Ellis, and his brothers Wynton, Delfeo, and Jason were awarded a Jazz Masters Fellowship by the National Endowment for the Arts, cementing their place as America's leading family dynasty of jazz. I asked Branford what it was like growing up in a household so full of music.
Sometimes we'd play a song with my dad. If we asked him, he would never say, "Come play a song with me." Because his theory was music is hard enough to do if you actually like it. But if you don't, then you need to do something else. So he would encourage us, but he would never actively encourage us, like saying, "Hey, come play a song." We had to ask him to play a song.
So would the brothers play stuff in the house, practice together, or were you guys all solo in your own little room?
Oh, what could we play together?
That's a good question.
You got a saxophone player, a trumpet player, and a trombone player. I mean, other than, 1970s pop music horn parts, I mean, there is no, I have never heard of a chamber piece written for that combination. There's not really anything we could play together other than a couple of, Dixieland tunes or ragtime tunes. And that wasn't our music of choice back in those days.
Right.
Being teenagers, we were normal teenagers. We weren't abnormal ones.
You told me once, Branford, about a gig you had when I think you were still in high school, where you had to take pop songs that were relevant and, well, not relevant necessarily, but pop songs that were popular at the time and arrange them for this, I think it was a dance band.
Oh, yeah.
And
Same band, the R&B band I was talking about.
Right, R&B band. How important was that experience in your musical growth of taking this stuff, and you had to take stuff and arrange it in very little time and bang it out week after week? How important was that for you?
I thought it was fantastic in hindsight, but at the time I didn't think about it. At the time I just knew that I got paid $100 a night, and that was a lot of money in the 70s, and I didn't want to lose that gig. And the guys in the band were incredibly lazy, so I just did it. But it was a lot more, it's not really arranging, it isn't the right thing, because none of the guys in the band except the guys in the horn section could read music. So what I had to do was I had to learn everybody's part. And on songs that they weren't familiar with, when we get the list of, because it was a talent show, so people would sign up and tell you what they wanted to perform. And the songs they didn't know, we would put the songs on the cassette recorder. This is before Walkman too. It was like a Tascam cassette player, about the size of an iPad, but 5 or 6 inches thicker. And I would sing the parts to them. I could sing the guitar part. I played piano in the band, and I would sing the parts to the bass player if he needed it. And we'd go through this rudimentary stuff, and sometimes I just had to yell the stuff out on the stage just to get them through the song.
Wow. So, Branford, while you're here in Eugene, you're going to have the opportunity to interact with students from the middle school level, high school level, and college as a part of this residency that's supported by the Holt Endowment and the National Endowment for the Arts. At this stage in your life, how important is teaching to you, and what do you get out of it?
Teaching is on a college level is great. It's like really cool when you're teaching things to people that know absolutely nothing, but are old enough to think that they do. And that's when the fun begins, when there's this clash of ideas. And they eventually realize that it can't really be a clash of ideas if you don't have any idea. So, at the junior high level, I like to be very supportive and encourage the kids, because most of them, you just don't know who's going to play music anyway. So. But at the college level, I can get after them and ask them very pointed questions and expose their flank a little bit. And they'll fire back, and that's what's great, because you have to justify your beliefs. You have to justify your ideology to cynics, which is, to me, the best environment to present your argument. It's much more fun for me to present an argument to a hostile room than it is to a room that agrees with you. because then it's very similar to what happens in the scientific community when you come up with a theorem and you let your colleagues know, and you don't take it personally when they basically rip your entire theory to shreds and do everything they can to expose you as a fraud. Because that's how science advances. It doesn't advance through acquiescence. It advances through cynicism. And it's amazing how many 19 and 20-year-olds, because of the way that the culture that we live in now and the way our kids are brought up, they melt under criticism. And, you know, it's just my job to like, you know, knock them down and pick them up and, you know, beef them up a little bit and get them to understand what this is really about.
Well, I know all of the students in Eugene are looking forward to working with you on this residency. Let's talk a little bit about the two pieces you're going to play here with the Eugene Symphony, the Concertina de Camera by French composer Jacques Ibert and Escapades by John Williams. What are the particular challenges for both of those pieces, and what are some of your favorite moments from them?
The Ibert is kind of like my nemesis. It's just a piece I've never been able to play very well. And I'm looking forward to playing it. I think I can play it better now. It certainly sounds better in practice, and I feel like I have a sense of it in ways that I didn't when I was just in survival mode, just like God, just let it in. It's a very technical showpiece for saxophone, and it's very, very complicated and very melodic at the same time. Unlike a lot of complicated music, which is just technically complicated with no melodic merit whatsoever, and that's a completely different experience. So when you finish a very difficult piece that's just hard for the sake of hard, there's no real emotional reward for it at the end. You're like, wow, that was nice. I didn't kill myself. But it's a very unique piece. It's one of the few written for the saxophone that I think has legs with a non-saxophone audience. It has a little bit of excitement. It's really well orchestrated, although string players would tell you that it's horribly orchestrated because the parts are technically difficult and in very strange keys. The John Williams Escapades is a piece that he fleshed out after writing a score for the movie Catch Me If You Can. And the funny thing is I went to the movie late because I never stand in lines for movies. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So I went weeks after it came out, and I saw it, and I found his management company and wrote him an email and said, you know, there's a saxophone player over here who hopes that Mr. Williams decides to write this piece out and expand it as an actual concerto. And 2 days later, I got an email back saying, you know, thanks for your interest. It will be done in about 3 weeks.
Wow, good timing.
Yeah, so it's one of those great pieces. It has Americana in it. He's an American, and he's very skilled. He writes for movies. He knows how to use sound to create an emotional response, which is a skill. It is not luck. It's a skill.
Yeah, you bet.
And Mr. Williams knows how to do that in spades. So at the end, when we finish in the third movement, audiences jump up and scream and holler. He knows what he's doing. So it's a very American piece, and Americans love it. And it's hard as hell to play, especially the third movement.
Well, I was just going to ask about that third movement. So
yeah, it's nasty. He did this really cool thing where he basically, because John Williams was a jazz piano player for a little while, he simulated a jazz band with the saxophone taking a solo that he wrote. And you can listen to with the walking bass line, and there are these chords that are played behind, and they're played the way that modern jazz guys play piano. You know? And he wrote it out, and it's really cool when everybody plays the parts right. It's really cool.
Yeah, can't wait. Can't wait to hear it again, Bran. Thank you so much for your time, and we will see you in Eugene soon.
My man. Thank you, Scotty Frick.
Thank you.
Yeah, bro.
Saxophonist Branford Marsalis talking about John Williams' Escapades, which he'll perform with the Eugene Symphony on Thursday, January 22nd at the Holt Center. More information can be found at eugenesymphony.org. This interview was recorded at public radio station KLCC in downtown Eugene. I'm Scott Freck, Executive Director of the Eugene Symphony, and thanks for listening.